Okay. Hey everyone, how's it going? What's happening? Welcome back to Friends in High Places 2.0. If you're wondering about the name change, actually it turns out there's already another podcast called Friends in High Places because of course there is. And I didn't check that before I went ahead and made my own one because of course I didn't. So there's that out of the way. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's really good to be back. This episode coming up was recorded with a friend of mine, Lynx from Sweden, and it was actually recorded several months ago along with another one, and I just never quite got around to doing the edit and upload. Basically, for some reason, my motivation sort of tanked and just dropped off a cliff for quite a while, and I ended up doing like a YouTube fast, so 40 days of no YouTube and just a whole lot of meditation and just I don't know, just stepping back and taking a bit of a breather for a while. But it is good to be back and to have a look at where I was or where we were at that point in time, and it's quite refreshing actually. There's no talk about protesting or the vax or anything like that. It's just basically going a bit in depth on mainly around addiction and various substances, and also quite a bit about ayahuasca. And yeah, I think I also wanted to expand the scope and definition of this podcast to include health. So psychedelics, music, and health. I think it's an important addition. I'm not sure why I overlooked that to begin with, but basically, it's if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So it's an area that I'm very much interested in. So yeah, that about sums up my clunky intro. Thank you for being here, and hope you enjoy the show. Yeah, so we might just get into it. If you want to just let people know your name and where you're from, and how things are for you on your side of the world.
Yeah, so I go by Lynx here, and on Discord. I'm from Sweden, 35. Going to school, studying psychology, sociology. Been addicted to hard drugs for most of my adult life. And recently, it is very recently, just a couple of years ago, I really, after trying again and again, I kind of got to a point where I got myself out of that situation and into this one. What do they say? Like, ut ur elden in I askan in Swedish, but out of the frying pan and into the fire again somehow. that's how it feels, at least,
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, we've got a couple of things in common. I'm in my mid-30s as well, and I've been through quite a few dark times with substances and addiction and things like that, and managed to pull myself out with a bit of help along the way, or a lot, as the case may be, and just strength and perseverance and just grinding really to get out of it. Which it's hard work, but I think it does get to that point where it's even harder to keep going on that path. That point where it's like, yeah, I think you know what I mean. So
I've seen a lot of examples of people getting to a certain age and they stop being like active drug users and they become more alcoholics. Yeah. Because that's so easy to get, and they don't have to hustle and bustle and live that life. So I've seen, people reach a certain age and they feel like it's too late to like start over. They have this idea that they have to start over. So people go into drinking and just like slowly burning out and dying. It's fucking sad, man.
Yeah, it is. And so we were starting to talk about aging and how we feel about that. Being in our mid-30s, we're probably like around the midway of life. For, an average lifetime is probably about 70. I think you're doing pretty well to have 70 good years. And maybe beyond that, it's you can survive a bit longer, but how much are you really going to be living at that point?
Well, with possible DNA activation, I feel that one could possibly live to like 1,000 years. But hey, I don't know. I'm just keeping it open. So
yeah, yeah, it's not set in stone. We could be just 1/10 of the way through life at this point. So yeah,
yeah.
I think for me personally, like aging has been something that I've learned to embrace, and I think I'm in such a good place now compared to where I was basically my entire life up until now. So for me, it's life. So long as I put in the work and the effort, life does keep getting better. And so long as that keeps happening, then I'm happy to get older, because that's what getting older sort of has come to mean, is that life improves, or at least you get better at it. It doesn't get easier, but you learn to get better at doing it, whatever that is. Yeah. And yeah, I guess some people have this weird sort of perspective where they look back, especially if they have made a lot of progress, they look back and think, oh, if I wish I could go back to when I was 20 or when I was 25 with all the information that I know now, and just sort of just smash it out and live amazingly. But yeah, I don't really look at it that way. I just sort of feel like every stage I was where I needed to be at that time, and was going through things that sort of led me up to where I am now. And so it couldn't have really happened any other way.
Yep. It's a good way to view it. And it's a way of viewing it that I share more and more with you today. I used to feel for so long that all these years of hardship and suffering and misery, it was all like pointless evidence for me being worthless and being a failure somehow. And I started to transmute that into seeing it as I'm here. I'm pretty healthy, and my life is working. So I mean, it has to be a success, because if it was a failure, I wouldn't be here. I would be probably dead or doing dirt somewhere,
Yeah. So what has it been like for you going through just your addiction sort of process? And do you feel like you're making progress in terms of having come out of it completely, or do you feel like you still have a bit more work to do in that area?
Well, I got a bit more work to do. I feel like there's always a bit more work to do, but yeah, I haven't felt that yet. I'm still, it's like the old Mitch Hedberg quote, yeah? I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too.
Yeah, I still do.
So it's like that for me. And but that means I'm not supposed to do any opiates. I'm not supposed to do any benzos. I'm not supposed to touch speed. I'm not dirty drugs. Sometimes it might happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't break my life apart completely, but it is what it is until it isn't anymore. I feel that's just my experience. Anyway, but I do like my psychedelics more and more today. I've had a psychedelic resurgence, I suppose, for the past 6 months. So I've been having a lot of trips, and it's been really good. The hard part about that for me is reintegrating into normal society, because I'm like, I want to stay in spirit form all the time and just let go of all the bullshit, So that's been hard for me, and a lesson for me as well, to like learn to. I'm bouncing between two extremes. I'm like going all into it, taking acid 6 days in a row, and then I'm like crashing for 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, I'm a failure again, no
Yeah.
balance. Like
Yeah.
I think it's kind of normal in that world.
Yeah, I think the whole balance thing is not to be underestimated, and it's quite a fine line, and it's quite difficult to, especially if you're sort of like an all or nothing sort of person. It's like you can go far, but you can go far in the wrong direction sometimes, and even if it's the right sort of substance or the right place for you at the time, it's a bit easy to just get a bit lost in it and get a bit too far away from what's practical and what's really going to be beneficial in your life at the moment.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, as addicts, I feel we are very much primed in a way, like in our like neuronal pathways to go to that place, to like allow overindulgence and call it something else. The ego really wants like to have this. Like I had me a couple of grams of ketamine, and I was like, yeah, I was tripping the dimensions and going in the astral and meeting people and all this very interesting research, I'd say. But yeah, what do I do with that in my life? What do I transmute that into? I suppose is the whole point of taking psychedelics, unless you're just hedonistic and just want to do drugs. And yeah, that is part of it too.
Yeah, I haven't really messed with ketamine much, and I hesitate to because of those kinds of stories about how it can be so habit forming and so enjoyable, and yet so far removed from ordinary reality that people seem to come back saying a very similar thing, is that they sort of got in there and got into a good space and then decided they wanted to go back and then go back again and then go back again. And then after a while kind of realized, well, what am I even doing this for? Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's tricky. I think it's, on one hand, I think you want to keep it in check, but on the other hand, there's something great about pushing to see how far you can go and what you can discover and what the limits are. And you don't really know what they are unless you sort of push into those areas and actually find out. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I would say that ketamine is very habit forming and very seductive. Yeah, like you said. So one should be really careful about it, I'd say. So easy for me to be like the hookup guy that tells you all the cool shit about it, but there's also this dark side. And I mean, that's a theme for today's conversation. So I feel it's a bit irresponsible not to say that as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, I used to love nitrous oxide, so if it's a general anesthetic sort of thing, I'm probably going to be right into it. Just that whole, like, having your body go completely numb and not feeling it anymore, and then sort of when you come out of it, you realize that the sensation of being alive in a body is basically pain. It's just, you're just constantly in pain, and then it's like, well, I kind of prefer it when I don't feel that. It's really quite nice to be just like to, experience yourself as just a floating sort of energy form without any sort of real content, any sort of, it's so hard to describe, but
yeah, I feel context is the word here. There's no context to grip onto, especially with ketamine and the dissociative states. Because they are so far out. So I've been interested in, like, are there groups of people doing this and like comparing notes? Because I got some, but it's a very interesting space. So it has this psychedelic quality, but also this anesthetic quality, like it shuts your body down, or your consciousness and your body disconnects. And I'm learning more and more about how much is stored in the body. Energetic, emotional things. So you release that and you go out into cyberspace and the astral space. I mean, come on, what's not to love? So there's the warning, I suppose, and the sales pitch.
Yeah, well, I think for me, with nitrous, when I was younger, there's a body load associated with it, especially once you do it repeatedly, like a number of times in a row. You can develop a bit of a headache, and you can just have like a bit of a seedy feeling and feel like you really need to drink water and eat something. And it's a bit hard to describe, but I mean, I could handle that when I was younger and sort of ignore it pretty easily. But as I got older, I really noticed it, especially if after putting a lot of effort into trying to be healthy and to maintain like a clean diet and a healthy functioning body, to just notice that after effect, which is part of the effect, but sometimes we like to ignore that, kind of like the hangover from alcohol. So just that tiny little part alone was enough for me to be like, well, as fascinating as it is, I'm going to let nitrous go and move on with my life, because I think that little just, I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel you. You found some kind of space to put your consciousness on that's working for you. And you add the nitrous, and it just pushes you a little bit like that, and you feel like, whoa, it's just fucking working here. So let me stay here. So that's really good to hear. That means you're far along on the path of healing from your addictions, I feel.
Yeah, and I think for me, I had probably the worst results with methamphetamine and just amphetamines in general. And I think for you, was it heroin that you got sort of the deepest into?
Yeah, I would say heroin and speed both equally.
Yeah.
As much.
At the same time, or?
No. It's like a rolling schedule of different. It's basically you're juggling your tolerances from different drugs.
Right.
So you're switching from this one to this one to this one to this one.
Right. That sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah. So like, what are you doing this week? Oh, I'm doing this. Yeah. So I can give you some background history. So I started doing drugs when I was 15. I tried ecstasy. It was the first thing I ever tried. And it was the first time I, like, at least since childhood, like consciously experiencing this massive amount of love. And being that young and it wasn't I took ecstasy many times after that. So I thought many times how it could have affected my development. I think it's called the prefrontal cortex. That is like finishing developing at 25 or so. But I don't care much about that anymore. I don't attach too much to it, because what can I do about it? But from there on, it was like this journey of exploration. I was suffering a lot from all the trauma and not having the support I needed. So drugs was the thing I found that made me excited about life. So it's been the only thing that really excited me about living, existing, has been drugs. And to a huge part, that's still there. Since then, I've always had, so I have a channel, some kind of higher intelligence.
Yeah.
I've always had this channel, but it's just until recently that I can go back and see and confirm that, okay, it's always been with me. It's super clear to me now. So it's always been in the background, and I always had this like a small bright light in the back of my mind, or in my mind's eye. So, and in this light, there was hope, and it was a promise of a different life, a promise of what could be if things weren't this right now, and it could be something else. I was like tapping into my potential, my raw talent, I don't know, my whatever. And it kept like sending me this hope, or I held this hope in my heart all this time. And that's what made me, like you said before, like it's really about grinding. You grind. That's what it is. You gotta put in the work. And I'd say to anyone who's doing it or is trying to do it, you got to validate yourself for your success as well. That's so important, because I still to this day, I don't give myself the credit I deserve for what I've done to change my life, but I'm learning to be nicer to myself.
Yeah, I think that's such a valuable thing to stop now and then and to look back on just how far you've come, and to just appreciate all that effort, because it's huge. It's yeah, it's hard really to put it into words, the amount of just suffering basically that we have to go through, and there's no way around it really. It's yeah, it's like do not pass go, do not collect $200.
Yeah, it's you're like all fucked up because of drugs and this and that, and you're like going around hoping for a magic pill to get you out of that, which was kind of what I did with Suboxone for 2 years.
Yeah.
Which I recently went off. And I was thinking today, actually, because it coincides. I'm a huge gamer since like all the way back, Been spending several hours a day, like farming dopamine, through gaming, an addiction as well. So when I stopped the Suboxone, I noticed I'm not getting any dopamine from gaming anymore, which should mean that whatever process is making dopamine or whatever isn't working as well as it could, I would say.
Right.
It's a thing I've been thinking about recently and reflecting about, because it's like, since stopping the Suboxone and the Xanax, I should notice that's quite a big one too. It's been, like you said, it's been a grind for me. So you asked me earlier about meditation, and it's like people talk about, oh, should do this meditation and should read this book, and I'm like, thank you, but that's a big joke to me that I would be able to sit down and relax enough to do that, because I'm like this close to exploding all the time. So it's a lot of physicality for me, like working out, going to the gym, going out, movement, being into the more caveman kind of shit, the primal shit.
Yeah,
works out really well for me. But there's a resistance, there's a lazier side to it as well, that my ego doesn't want to do the work, the other kind of work. I want to do this work because it works out for me. So yeah, I've been dealing a lot with facing my fear and going deeper into that. It has to do with sorrow and anger, which I've learned are like polarities in a way. And if one is fucked up, the other is fucked up. So I can't cry, and I don't like burst out in rage. So it's all internal. So and I mean, that is hard. So when I'm starting to like find just little drops of water on this sheet of ice, I'm so grateful for that, because any kind of actual relief from that suffering is huge for me. And it was unexpected. It was actually just last night when I had this realization when talking to a person. So like I saw the thing from a completely new angle, and just by seeing it, the healing process started,
Yeah, I mean, often that's what it is. It's a perspective shift, and just being able to that's part of why community is so important as well, to be able to share a sort of viewpoint of the same thing, and to be able to look at it from different ways, and kind of like just crack it open a little bit. Whereas if you only look at it from just the same direction every time, it can seem a bit like blocked off and like there's no way through.
Yeah, and that's how I've felt about it for so long. It's like, okay, I'm stuck between this rock and this hard place, and it seems like I'm just this way, but that can't be. I mean, that's just insanity. Then I should blow my brains out, you know.
Yeah,
but
it's like
yeah,
you're the only thing in the universe that doesn't change at all. You just stay the same forever.
Exactly. It's so like, I mean, for me, I notice I try to treat everyone I meet with like utmost respect and friendliness and compassion, but not for me. So rules for thee, but not for me. It's but you know, so I'm treating myself in a toxic way. I've noticed the toxic masculinity that I grew up in and that I've talked a lot about, and that I like want to be an example for how you can be a positive masculine influence, especially as a big guy with muscles. Everyone has the preconceived notion.
Yeah.
But I'm finding out that I'm being toxic to myself, and it's like, dude, it's a good realization to have.
Yeah, and it's a difficult one. It's a very difficult one because it's like, well, I mean, why to begin with? Yeah, but it's so common. I think you can pretty much talk to anyone about that, anyone with an open mind, and find that they go through a similar sort of struggle where they, like I was just speaking to my mum recently on the phone, and just about addiction and vaping and trying to get away from that, and then like having troubles with drinking, which I don't even like, but then you do it once and it's, you know, it's fine. And so you think, well, I might do it again the next night, and then that's fine. And then 5 nights later, you're like, I've got a problem and I need to stop.
Just finding out about this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so she was sort of mentioning, you know, how about she used to smoke, but whenever she was pregnant with a child, she would stop smoking and stop drinking and just completely cut it out for the sake of the health of the child, which is great. But then she would think, well, why don't I do that for myself?
Yeah. I think it's super common, like you say. Yeah. I've talked to my mom actually about similar things as well, where we carry this cross around our whole lives in a way. I feel it's like a crucifixion of self. I don't know where I got that from, but that's the feeling of it. You're like up for sacrifice in a way. I don't know. It's fucked up, anyways.
Yeah, it's quite self-destructive, and I mean, my sort of discussion, bringing it up, coming into it with her, was just like, you know, you can get really healthy and do so well for so long, and then you sort of have this idea like, well, I've put all this hard work in and I might reward myself. Or another way is that you know, I've been struggling at work and having a hard day, and I want to just numb that out and just get away from that for a while. And it's like, well, I mean, the answer can't be to, you know, take a poisonous, deadly, addictive substance and put it into your body, because, I mean, what does that do? It makes everything worse, and it doesn't solve anything. It might feel like it for about an hour or two, but I mean, going by the entire length of the, you know, experience where the substance is affecting your system, it drains your energy. It makes you weak. It makes you dumb. It makes you forgetful. It makes you feel stupid. It makes you broke. You spend all your money and your time and you don't get anything done. You don't feel good the next day. And then you also develop a habit where you feel like you need to do it again. And it's like, well, how many problems am I actually solving with this? And it's like, well, pretty much none. And I'm just avoiding the actual problem, which is like, well, if I've had a hard day at work, maybe I've got some growing up to do. Maybe I've got some things to face. Maybe I've got to go for a run or lift some weights or do some yoga or something productive and healthy that's not work, to sort of get some distance between me and my job. It's, you know, there are solutions there, but as my mum was saying, it's kind of like socially acceptable and normal to drink and to sort of be like a numb little robot that pays taxes and does a good job, and then sort of has just enough money to sort of drown himself out so that there is no growth going on and there is no real sort of development.
That's what the man wants, right?
Right. So not to get too crazy into the conspiracy side of things, but I mean, I'm not a fan of alcohol, is what I'm trying to say. It really is a deadly poison that kills a whole lot of people, and yet it's easy even for me to get sort of sucked into that sort of illusion of like it being a useful thing or something fun or something interesting or something helpful, when in reality it's none of those things, you know. It's got a practical application in like maybe sterilizing something if you cut yourself, but beyond that, it's really quite useless.
Yeah. I'm starting to think about. I had this conversation with a friend about uh, back in the like 1500s. They started to add. It was like a royal decree or something that they had to start adding hops to what was, well, proto beer, I suppose.
Right.
But there was like a royal decree that you have to add hops to it, and she was saying that's when the war on drugs started, and I was like, damn, you got something there, because it is true when you look at it. So I
Yeah.
don't know. That's a tangent I went off on. You can bring
Yeah,
me
well,
back if you want.
hops will put you to sleep as well. They use it in like nighttime sleeping sort of preparations, along with like chamomile and valerian. It's part of a just sort of sedative, and that's what
Yeah.
alcohol is. It's a sedative hypnotic, which is like, really, do you want to be sedated and hypnotized at the same time?
And being able to walk around and punch people and do whatever.
Yeah, it's
No.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. So I mean, it's an ongoing sort of thing where you know these things and you remember them, and then time goes by, and then you sort of forget, and then you might have a drink again and maybe remind yourself, and just do it all over again. And so I don't know. I guess I'm at the point where I'd sort of really want to break free from that and have like a long-term memory which holds that, and doesn't forget it and doesn't let go, because it used to be really easy for me, like after I got clean from everything, to just be like 6 months without alcohol. It's totally fine. I don't miss it at all. I don't care. I can be around people who are drinking and not feel like I'm missing out on anything except, you know, a rough time, because it's, you know, it's not a
Yeah, but
clean substance to take. It's really, you know, it's quite a dirty thing in the body.
yep, yep. Yeah,
So
but
you know, you make it so far, and then next thing you know, you've sort of come back a few steps. It's like one step forward, maybe three steps back. And I don't know, like,
yeah,
what's your feeling about that whole situation?
yeah, it do be like that. That you take your steps forward, and for me, I'm not as good as with counting my forward steps, but my backward steps, I'm very like got to note those down, because I got to
Yeah.
judge myself about it, So I got to push myself even further back, being worthless and all.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of go between feeling like $1 million. I'm pretty well built. I go to school now. I got friends. I got shelter, and yeah, my life's going pretty well. Easy for me to go a bit overboard with hubris sometimes there,
Yeah.
like an overcorrection. But when things don't go as well anymore, seemingly, it feels horrible instead. So there's this the two extremes. So what I'm doing is trying to like come into the middle as much as possible and not overcorrect as much. And this
Mm.
is something I'm learning while doing it, and I have in general right now zero like support, actual like support for this kind of issue around me. Uh, and especially now over summer, I don't even have any friends around, so I'm basically living pretty isolated. So um, yeah, it's hard dealing with it, but sitting alone with myself forces me to deal with it. It doesn't force me to, but I want to deal with it. So
Yeah.
like you said, community comes in, and I'm very addicted to Discord, so I'm always online looking for a chat. So I'm finding people, and they are finding me. It's been really, really helpful for me.
Yeah, me too. I love Discord, and just there's such a good couple of little communities on there that seem to find each other and get along well, and then try to help each other out in certain ways. But yeah, I think you're right about just reaching like a level of health and functionality that sort of really highlights when things don't go well. And so before, when maybe things were not going well and that was just the way life was, you sort of got away with so much more that now you couldn't really tolerate anymore, because it's just the difference between how you feel normally and how you feel with a certain other thing in place. It's so I think in that sense you can at least, like, if you do have, like, I don't even know if you want to call it a relapse, but if you decide to do something that you know is not healthy, then because you're used to paying attention to how you feel all the time because it's enjoyable, then you carry that over and you pay attention to how you feel, and you notice that pretty quickly it starts to go downhill, and then you can catch it and bring it back up before it just gets way too out of hand.
Yeah, that's my exact feeling about it as well. That, okay, we get to this space and okay, we take a few steps back here, but we rebound and come back here because we've started to build something here that actually is worth something. Because over here, it's fucked up all the time. Doesn't matter if you're high because you're chasing your next anyway. So coming here and knowing that, okay, I don't need substances. I can sit in this space and it's fine. It's fine. I mean, that's all I could wish for. I feel like just the feeling of it being fine. But I find it also, it's so easy. Like when I'm having a good week at work and whatever, I've done my shit, then I feel good because it's the shit I decided I wanted to do and I did it. So I feel like a real man, it's good shit. Then it's so easy for me to like, I'm feeling so good, let's throw in some whatever. And so it's not always that you're suffering so much and become desperate because of that. It's because you're feeling so good and you allow your ego in a way to let you forget. It's a tricky thing.
Yeah, I guess it's something that we'll keep learning about, and just keep paying attention, I think, and keep having that sort of awareness, that self-awareness, I think, because it's a bit too easy to let that slide and to sort of ignore things that, like even just the way we treat ourselves day to day. It can be a bit easy to be quite hard on ourselves, whereas if we were just someone else around us, we wouldn't really be treating ourselves that way.
Yeah, and I feel that's the next big lesson for me is what we're talking about, basically, like going to rehabs and doing that journey. That's one thing. Getting off the drugs, that's one thing. Yep. And after that, you gotta start dealing with your feelers. You can't like hide them away all the time anymore. So you have to face your emotions, and especially those ones you may be fearful about or you don't want them, because I got a lot of shit within me that I resent. I fucking hate that because that means I am weak and that's blasphemy. It's like this fucking dark military fucking shit going on. And I'm learning more and more about taking care of my inner child, and I would never treat a child the way I treat myself. So I'm in the process of like shifting or like manifesting into this perspective with the inner child, because I feel that's very powerful for me, because children is like, that's like a sacred thing, don't fuck with children. So I feel that's good for me. And because if I'm not doing this kind of work, if I'm not dealing with my emotions out here, if I'm not facing all the fears I got out here, well, then I'll be either stuck suffering here or I'll be doing drugs, So I have to do it. And so the grind, it doesn't it doesn't end, but it does get easier, as you said. I gotta add that it does get easier.
Yeah.
Or your perspective on it changes. The circumstances might be the same on it. Then I feel you then you can start noticing you've done a lot of progress in an area. Sorry, my internet.
Yeah, just had a bit of lag. That's all right. So do you feel like, I know you've done an ayahuasca ceremony and obviously found that useful and helpful. Do you think, what was the sort of main theme over those ceremonies that you found? Was it a lot of emotional processing, or was it like purging, stuff like that? What did you find like an overall theme, or was it more just sort of getting to know the medicine and finding out what it's all about?
Definitely getting to know the medicine and finding out with time, because I feel that there's like still some pieces that haven't fully landed yet from those experiences.
Yeah.
So, but a theme was very much like, because I used to be quite narcissistic as a coping mechanism before. And so I went in there with all this kind of bullshit bravado, it's so dumb to think about today. But anyway, so that was kind of a theme, It was like 30 people there. It was too much for me personally. I would like to do like 5 people or something, but 30 people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Dressed in white. I'm the only one. Yeah, I'm the only one dressed in black, of course. The black sheep has to wear his fucking clothes, So my ego was a big theme with ayahuasca, because it was also a special thing. I'm finding out, because usually ceremonies are during the nighttime, I hear.
Yep.
But these were like reversed, so they were doing it in the daytime, and I'm like, I just want to hide away from everyone and like process my shit. I don't want anyone like looking at me while I'm being vulnerable,
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like me putting up this shield against ayahuasca until the darkness started coming in during the night, and then I allowed things to happen, and I met Mother Ayahuasca. It was such a profound experience that I found myself just repeating what the fuck over and over again. And I haven't been able to like process that, because that was so like out there to like actually meet a nature spirit that powerful. It like takes your hand and gives you healing, whatever.
Yeah.
It's super weird, but so that was a cool experience during the first day. And the second day, I drank my cup, and I felt like, oh shit, all my masks are slipping at once. This can't be happening in front of all these people. That's like also something that was like forbidden to show like weakness in general or at all. So when it comes to like feeling that you're losing all of your masks, so I just put up a fight and basically powered through a cup of ayahuasca, I would say. That's how, like, sometimes I feel like my mind can be too strong and too stubborn and too like fucking dumb, like in that way. But anyhow, during that ceremony, I had the most intense feeling of not wanting to be seen by anyone, because I was so vulnerable. And after the ceremony, we had this like going around, everyone gets to share if they want to. So I was sharing about this. I was like, I really wanted to like fucking leave the building, get the fuck out of here. But I was there with my then girlfriend, and it would have been like ultra disrespectful for me to do that when she brought me there. I was like, I couldn't do that. If I had gone alone, I would just gotten out of there, But
just
when I was sharing
got up and ran away.
yeah, fuck this shit. I'm going to my room, I don't give a fuck what you say. I don't give a fuck about any shamans. I don't give a fuck about this or that. I'm out. I'm fucking out. That was my feeling. And so the shaman and his wife and the people holding the space, basically, they were telling me afterwards that they had been looking for me for like 30 minutes. I was like, I was here all the time. I went to the bathroom like everyone else does, but I was here all the time. So that was the first time I experienced that, and I've experienced it since then. So it's sort of a validation that, like they told me then, like, oh, it's a superpower you have. And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I've never been aware of this before. But yeah, so that's a fun thing as well, the invisibility there. Yeah, but that's basically the only part I can really bring back and share, because the other part of that ceremony was just like me saying nope.
Yeah, I think the surrender aspect of ayahuasca, it really trips up a lot of people, especially first timers. And I think in that sense, it can be good to dose up as high as you feel like it, and have the greatest chance of just being sort of just knocked out and not given the chance of being able to struggle with it.
Rip off the Band-Aid, I think they call it.
Yeah, I think it's such a difficult thing, but I mean, at the same time, the harder it is, the more likely you are to just give up and actually allow it to do its thing.
I guess.
Yeah, but it's saying it doesn't make it any easier.
No, it does not. It does not. And maybe I should add also, like I told you a bit earlier about the feeling so extremely raw afterwards, after the ceremonies.
Right, because, just open.
Yeah, completely like broken open, I would say. I felt like.
Yeah.
Because I came into it, my nerve center wasn't feeling very well. I wasn't taking care of myself. Came to my girlfriend about a week before ceremony, went off all drugs, went through slight withdrawals. So I'm coming into it. I haven't slept well, haven't ate well. I'm basically dying when I come there, you know. But I'm putting up this like tough guy act, though, like whatever. So yeah. So I was like suffering greatly afterwards. So I really spun out in I guess you could call it a major relapse that ended with that relationship also ending, and me going buck wild, I would say, like I haven't done since I was like, that was almost 20 years ago that I acted in the way I acted afterwards. So it was really like a big push in the other direction. You know, I just want to remove everything. Desperation almost.
Yeah, it's why do you think that is, that you sort of like have a glimpse of what's possible with healing and then sort of turn and run the other way? Now, is it just fear of, or do you think it's like a self-esteem thing, or all of the above?
I would say it all ties into fear. Like, you know, I've been building this false self-image, false identity in a way, and I'm 30 plus years old and I'm coming into this and it's getting all removed. The Band-Aid is somehow ripped off enough to reveal things under there, and yeah, fear got to play a huge part in that afterwards. So I would really say to anyone who's planning to do it their first time to really take care of themselves beforehand and possibly do the dieta as well, and really make sure to have a support system at home afterwards to be there for you, because it will bring up a lot of shit. I feel if it didn't, it wasn't ayahuasca. I don't know. It's my feeling. I got a couple of cups in me, but that's my feeling about it anyway.
Yeah. I think I mean, people do it for healing, right? So on one level, you're going to show up broken, but I think once you know what it is you're showing up for, that gives you a better chance to prepare as much as you can, to be as strong as you can to begin with for when you start to go into it, because it is definitely work. You're not sort of showing up for a fun time or to get high or any of that. You're showing up to do some really life-changing work, and it takes a lot of energy, and like you said, to have something afterwards, even if it's just a couple of blank days where you don't have anything to do, just to sort of sit and gather up your energy and to go over things without, just because going back to the world is so hard after that, after sort of opening everything up. Especially for you, and considering how hard that was to feel like there's this level that you cannot drop below, and then it's all dropped down and fallen away, and you don't know how to be like that at that point. Yeah. So I mean, you sound like you've got more work to do there, and that you want to go back and come back to it with a stronger mindset and a more sort of dedicated approach to it. And how far away do you feel like you are from that? Because I know I've been called back to it to do more work with it. My last times were quite a few years ago now, but it is something that's I think it's like there's the experience itself, and then it sort of bleeds out into your life over quite a long time, and then
that's how I feel about it as well. Like I'm saying, I feel it was just a couple of months ago where something dropped down like a piece of the puzzle. So, but not gonna lie, it's right now, even I don't want to like truly consider it right now. But of course, it's there in my mind, and it's too profound to put away. So I will be going back, because I feel that I have work to do, and it will be helpful, and it will increase my quality of life. So I got to do it. I'm also interested in ibogaine, because I've heard so much great reports from a lot of people. I've been researching it for since I was like in my 20s, but it's a bit more rare, I feel, than ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is all the rage, but the reports I've been getting from ibogaine sounds like it's a lot more chill, and it's like a granddaddy Ibuga comes and like tells you what's up, and you get learned, basically. So
that's I find it interesting as well, but I'm not sure if I really feel that called to it in terms of needing that sort of like, it would be interesting for me, but like in terms of like really huge life patterns that need changing, I feel like I'm past that already, and that and
it's I mean, part of it is my curiosity. I am curious as the cat. So, and because I'm doing shamanistic work, so like collecting these experiences with different plant spirits and different things like this, I feel can be very useful. But that's part of it. Part of it is curiosity, and me just, I want to find out about it. And also because ayahuasca does feel like something that I need to do. Then it's like, but let's look at iboga over here. It doesn't demand anything of me, like it's like a bargaining. But
that's 6 in one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, it took me quite a long time to realize that it was not the substance particularly that gave a certain experience, but it was me and what I was bringing to it. especially, I mean, that was the theme for all my dark, sort of like really horrifying, terrifying dark trips, was that I noticed that it could happen across any substance. It wasn't just specific to one, so I couldn't just point and go acid is fucked because it messed me up. And it's like, no, I was messed up and I'd happened to have acid on top of that. So
yeah. No, but I feel you, man. The expectation is huge to like try and remove, but set a focus, an intent. You have some kind of, like you talked about, clarity going into it. These are the things, like for me, anger, sorrow, allowing more compassion towards myself. If I got these things, then I feel that that'll be more productive. And I mean, I feel I've already gone through the worst kind of darkness that I will ever experience. Like, because it's not this like, oh, it was like 10 hours of feeling like this. It's like, dude, it's my whole fucking life.
Yeah.
So what's these hours gonna fucking do to me? You know, that's a part of it too. So the experience adds to the courage, because the experienced suffering from before is vast. So I know suffering. So there's a bravado side to it, like bring it on. You know, there's a masochistic side, which I think is helpful in dealing with suffering. That like, okay, like fucking bring it then. Like I can take it, you know.
It's
balance
just like
there as well.
Another day of the week sort of thing.
Yeah, I sometimes have to muster up that kind of courage, and for sure we will see what happens when it happens. But when going into Aya again, we will see what kind of mindset I have, because last time it was like I was a boxer going into the ring. I basically pumped myself up that one. So we'll see how the boxing match goes next time.
Yeah, well, I think if you come to it with your intentions in mind and sort of having that awareness of what you are wanting to and willing to work on during that time, that really kind of makes all the difference, to sort of show up and be ready, not to fight necessarily, but to get it done.
Yeah, to struggle. And I would say you struggle through something, but you don't really fight through. Yeah, you do, but it's a different kind of thing. So you struggle through it, and you're there. You are there to do that. So, but I'm very open. So I'm feeling right now like I'm maybe waiting for it to enter my life somehow, and that would be like the calling card. Like, okay, it's time again.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, you got some more experience with Aya than me. So before doing it the first time, like so my first time, like a couple of days before the ceremony, I had like this massive pain in my balls, like massive pain. And I was like puking, throwing up, and I've never had this kind of issue before. So I'm like, okay, this should be connected. And what is connected to the balls? Well, it's the root chakra. Yeah. So and supposedly the root chakra is the chakra that can modulate all other chakras. So it would be reasonable that Mother Aya is working on my root chakra before. So just wanted to share that and see if you have similar experiences.
I have had pain in my balls, but it was caused by different things.
Not necessarily that, but this kind of time traveling thing.
I did no PMO, so no porn, no masturbation, no orgasm. And most guys do it for like 3 or 6 months, and I did it for 12 months straight, and ended up with like chronic pain in my right nut.
That is funny. Like
it's taken care of now. Yeah. But it's just another example of taking things way too far when really it's excessive. But well, now I know there's nothing to that whole celibacy thing, because even if you stop masturbating and orgasming, you just start having wet dreams and it just comes out anyway. So
yeah, I'm living in I'm on 2 years of like no sex, but of course I gotta milk myself sometimes.
yeah.
Basically, that's what it is. So
Mm.
and like you say, I hear things about semen retention and people not masturbating and shit like that, but
Yeah, it's supposed to be some great holy thing that'll give you superpowers, but it's a whole bunch of bullshit, basically. It's just a human function and need that has to happen, and if it doesn't happen, you're going to run into problems.
yeah, and I definitely feel there's something to it, but you gotta maybe get a broader perspective on that before doing it, so you can channel that energy that you are saving up and not just busting a nut in your sleep and like having issues with it, because like you said, it's taking it too far. So I'm not saying it's bullshit, but for me it kind of feels like bullshit. I'm not saying it is for others because of that, but I feel you there, like you tried it, so you can put your name on bullshit. Your feeling,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely holds potential as something that you could, if you sort of mastered the energy of it, you could work with it in that sense. But yeah, for me with ayahuasca, it sort of it seemed to find me, and the thing that came through with the Icaros, the music, the traditional music for it, and that was really where I'd say like 70, 80, 90% of my healing was before I ever took ayahuasca, was just listening to the Icaros and going through like a huge emotional purge for about 2 or 3 weeks. And it just felt really like, it's hard to describe to listen to it. It's almost like a lullaby, and it's also sort of like really familiar. It seems so natural and familiar, and you just like at home with it, but also there's this weird tension of like it's drawing stuff out of you and it's like pulling at it, and it kind of hurts, but it's sort of locking you in this like trance-like state, and so you don't want to pull out of it, but it's hard to stay in it. And it's not everyone, but some of them are like that, and they're the ones that are sort of doing the work and pulling these things through, like this energetic sort of fabric that's getting torn out or whatever. And some of them are just beautiful, but some can be really quite dark. And there's also some that I just flat out will not listen to at all. And it's more just it's a matter of finding like what resonates with you, even if it is difficult, and sort of connecting with that and going along for that journey. And then after I'd done that, I sort of brought the medicine into that once I'd sort of become familiar with that that whole process of what the Icaros are for and what they do.
Yeah, and I share the experience of like it was the music that was doing the healing. I feel, of course, ayahuasca helps, but it was the active. The music was so great. I mean, I think the greatest I've ever heard. Like, the dude who played guitar and sang, and they all sang together. So goddamn beautiful. And I was thinking about these tapestry, maybe you say, that shamans make. And it's like this line pattern, a fractal pattern, and that's supposedly how the Icaros look or work. It's a representation of the healing in the Icaros in that tapestry that I've seen.
Yeah, they reckon the artwork is like visually, it's the song. It's kind of the words to the song, but it's an image. And I don't disagree with that. I haven't seen it personally, but for me, it was far less about the visions themselves and more about the feeling. And I think that it kind of applies to a lot of psychedelic medicine work. It's less it can be easy to get wrapped up in the visuals and like the eye candy of the whole thing, but the feelings are sort of the main things that stay with you after the experience.
Yeah, that's what you're taking medicine for sure. But I mean, I found myself on the 21st on solstice. I think it was like 5 grams of golden teacher and 2 tabs of acid. And I was like laying about and I was like, what the fuck? Nothing's happening. Because I brought these like huge like expectations, like, okay, this is going to be the bomb.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this is like trip land. I know what this is, but I missed that. The expectation created a sort of void in the trip. In that place where I wanted the eye candy and I wanted the light show, you know, and I didn't get it in the way that I wanted. I mean, I should have learned by now that you don't get what you want, but what you need. But anyway.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and it can happen with the exact same dose, and you know, it just could be completely different. And once again, it sort of points towards, you know, the ultimate shaper of the experience being you and not exactly the particular substance that you happen to be on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the whole thing about us creating our own reality, I feel is very much true. So yeah.
Yeah, it's also a scary thing, or it can be, to because there's so much responsibility that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And it can be, I mean, it's not really talked about that much, you know. We're not sort of taught in school like straight away from the beginning that that's the way it is, and it's more just like get a job and pay taxes, and then you might be able to retire when you're 70.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier. Like people are getting sold a dream. They don't even, nobody asked them if they wanted it.
Right.
So the whole thing about that is something learned as well, that nobody's going to ask you what you want. This is what you get, bitch, basically.
Right.
So yeah, I never felt good about that whole thing, you know, and that's why I've been using drugs most of my life, just trying to get away from it all. But I'm really thankful for all the help I've gotten and all the support I have in different realms as well, because I feel that without that support and that invisible kind of hand guiding me, I wouldn't be here today. Because you know how it is, if you're deep down in the dirt in addiction, you really you're thinking about blowing your brains out like half of the time at least.
Yep.
But so for me, it was this connection that I had. For me, it's not allowed to take my own life. So because in a way, I feel it like, for me, it wouldn't be a solution because I hold a belief about suicide and stuff like that. But that may be my trigger warning on that. You know, I want to go to.
Yeah, I don't think we have trigger warnings on this show.
Yeah, but so I can tell you then.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, my perspective on why I don't do it, or why I haven't done it before, is just because I can't. There's no guarantee that I won't end up in the same place or worse afterwards, and I just don't know. And so it's really pointless to, yeah. Yeah,
and that's what it is for me as well. I do feel very strongly that it would be completely pointless. No, it would be even worse than pointless, because this existence has meaning, deep meaning, and to cut yourself off from that is like cutting yourself off from divinity in a way. It's the ultimate sin, I would even go as far as to say, if we're going to use the terminology, at least, sin, and forget about the church. But
I think I like the definition of sin, which says that the definition is to sin is to miss the mark. Yeah,
I agree with that, and I also hold a belief about I think you'd get reincarnated instantly, basically. because you got your karmic path through all these lifetimes. You've been walking this path, so you ain't gonna stop walking the fucking path until you proceed to whatever point that means that samsara can end for you.
Well,
and you might enter some higher dimension. Who knows?
That it could easily tie in exactly with sort of my view on it, and it's just ending up in either the same place or worse straight afterwards, and whatever that would look like. I mean, if I had to sort of get to be 25 and then suicide and then be born straight back into the exact same life, I'd be pretty cut about it. And it's like, who could tell how many times I'd already done that before?
Yeah, it's like with the dissociatives almost. You're like, damn, I forgot again. Damn, I forgot again.
Yeah, dissociative looping is really funny that way, that whole sort of polarity thing you can get into. And trying to wrap your mind around that is pretty intense.
Yeah, you ain't gonna do it.
No, it's impossible, right? It's impossible.
Yeah, you would probably break your brain because, especially with the ketamine, but so dimensionally connected as well, in a sense that I never found nitrous to be, even though I had some profound experiences on that. So rapping, we're not supposed to rap, and I feel that way. We're not even. It's like I call psychedelics or drugs in general cheat codes. It feels like ketamine is like one of the cheat codes. Like it's a secret. We're not allowed to look. So that's what makes it so sexy for me to go and look, because I'm like, wow, what is this that I'm finding? It's so novel that it has to be something, but I can't bring it back because dissociation.
Well, it's also kind of it's like why are you even born? Why are you even here in this body anyway? Is the whole point just to try and get back out of it and dissociate yourself from it? It's obviously not. Otherwise, you never would have been born to begin with.
Yeah, and I don't know if it relates, but I've been doing a little bit of a shadow work. So I was watching a video about being more in the observer state of yourself. And instead of identifying with your triggers or your responses to the triggers, basically. And because supposedly your reptile brain takes over when fear comes into the picture. And so I'm trying to train myself to observe that happening and not allowing my consciousness to go with it, So, because I do feel that it does relate to dissociation, because I've had a lot of discussions since I studied psychology, and I have a close friend who's got a lot of issues with dissociation. It's a very interesting subject in general, an invisible problem that a lot of people have, and that they don't even know it because they don't have a language for it. But this whole thing about being the observer of your own self, in a way, I feel like you just a little bit, you dissociate a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mindfulness thing, right? And an awareness thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on really dark trips and what goes on in there? Because I know there's a few different sort of perspectives that I can sort of try to map onto it, but nothing really fits, and it's got a really slippery sort of atmosphere to it. It's kind of like, is it alien abduction? Is it like reliving your birth? Is it just pure hallucination and being imagined? Is it sort of like being taken through like a portal into a black hole and being crushed? You know what I mean? There's all these different ways of looking at the same thing. Do you find that you can ever sort of nail it down and identify what actually happens during the sort of, I know we've got like peak heavenly experiences, but then like the peak hell ones, like what are they all about in your world?
Well, for me, the more I don't want to use like, people use like bad trips there, and I would say there are no bad trips, and the difficult trips are the ones where you're doing the most work on your shadow or whatever it is that you need to work through.
Just
that's getting
the
taken care of.
The heaviest duty trips then.
yeah so that's my perspective on it on a broader sense, and in the more like phenomena kind of way, what's going on is interesting. And for me, with ayahuasca and entheogens in general, I feel like, there's a risk with darker entities coming into the picture. And I've talked to people who gave into these kind of succubus kind of entities that this person was encountering during his trips, and he was keeping it secret because they were giving him sexual favors. Basically, there's succubi. So and he told me about this, and he told me that he could feel them like eating from his life essence basically afterwards, and he had real issues with this. So and this is this is such a huge perspective in the spiritual community and in the psychedelic and eugenic community, the healing community with entities. And we often talk about, we have these pantheons, and I'm a lot into the Nordic shit since I'm from here. It's in my roots. So I have that. I had my little thing with Odin during ayahuasca actually. I don't have a lot of personal experience with like negative entities. I have a few, but during trips. But that's been me like helping others, because I had the issue as well before with an entity that I believe attached to me when I was very young, and I carried it around my whole life. And it was like I have ADD, It's like I have a second mind going on because it's going so fast, and it's like double, it's fighting itself, and it's always been like this. So I resolved that through some help through some shamans, and I've now helped 2 people with their problems with entities, like bringing the whole issue into the light, And by doing that, gives them the option of having light if they receive it, if they really want it, and that in turn turns on the lights so that they can start seeing the entity and noticing it in their consciousness, because it's like it is a second mind going on. And when you start, the whole issue with that is when you don't notice it, you're not aware of it, then it's gonna fuck you. It's gonna, you can't do anything. So the whole thing is to flip the light switch on, and you start catching the ghost instead of the ghost catching you. That's how I see it. So it's pretty funny. I became somewhat of a ghostbuster, I feel, for a while, because it was like 2 people in a row, and then like a couple 5 days ago or something, this dude from shamanism server just randomly, I've never seen his nickname or anything, never talked to him. He randomly messaged me and started telling me about his issues with entities, and I'm like, to my inner circles that I have, I tell them, and they're like, you got to be really careful, dude. And that's what my feeling as well, that I kind of tried to give him some advice what to do locally, but I disconnected myself from that because I ain't fucking around with that.
Yeah. Do you think that ties in with schizophrenia?
Yeah, this is a very, very interesting subject in itself. What does it mean to have schizophrenia? What does it really mean? I feel that people who have this issue are experiencing some kind of dimensional issue that, of course, makes their lives sometimes really like just hell and unlivable, basically, and can't take care of themselves. Some people might have, because I know of some shamans who are they have the diagnosis of schizophrenia. And I know I shouldn't say a lot, but I know several other shamans who have gone through similar trials or whatever. So it's so easy to just like put a label. Oh, he's schizo. Oh, it's psychosis. Oh, it's this, it's that. It's not so simple, It's very complex. I feel. I mean, it all ties into it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Like, I understand how it's quite complicated and how it's still a huge mystery, the whole schizophrenic sort of spectrum of ways of being. And it's quite difficult. And psychedelics haven't really solved that whole equation like we thought they might. And I mean, I've had like episodes myself where I don't know, I wouldn't call them schizophrenic exactly, but more just like drug-induced psychotic breaks with reality. And in that context, it's really disturbing to me, the whole dichotomy between, is it an entity or is it something that's my own shadow work that I need to surrender to and work through? Because if it is an actual entity that's trying to fuck me up, and I surrendered to that, I could end up in a really, really bad place. And like I've ended up in those places, and I've fought with it and fought with it and fought with it till, to the end of my life sort of thing. And it's hard to look back on that and say, well, I fucked up and I shouldn't have struggled so hard, and maybe it wouldn't have been so hard the whole time. Maybe that's true, I don't know. But if it was an actual sort of external entity or, an attack of some kind, then I think fighting it is probably, I mean, if that's the way it feels at the time, there's no real other choice that I have other than to fight it, right?
Yep. I agree. And I've had too many actually psychotic breaks or like psychosis setting in from like staying awake for too long on speed.
Yeah.
And this whole thing in when you have psychosis, you have this like, you're following this kind of thread, and reality keeps reaffirming that you're onto something here, and that feeling reinforces the experience. So in that whole space, like you say, how are you going to decide afterwards what it was? But I mean, like you say, I think you have a good way of viewing it. So if you had that experience where you don't know which one it is and you fought it, I would say good on you. So it wasn't pointless, even because it's pointless thinking about it now. I feel, at least with things you cannot change. Well, you can do research about it, I guess, but it's so hard to tell in a psychotic state. I mean, that's a whole nother trip,
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the sleep debt ones are some of the worst ones, really. And yeah, I mean, it does also tie into the whole, what we were talking about at the start with, like, we do have this sort of inherent capacity to, if not create our entire reality, to at least shape our reality and to participate in the creation of it. And like, to what degree do we do that in a negative sense, in a dark trip where we're not even aware of it? Like, it's sort of, we're letting it get out of hand and then reinforcing it because we believe in something that's happening. But that's
some shamanistic work there, my dude. That's all I got to say, because that's what you need right there. Someone with clarity that can come in and change up your inner environment enough for you to like have a fresh perspective on it, to bring you out of that, because in that kind of moment, that's very much moment to moment and not very much like observing it. So then that's why I feel the way I do with ayahuasca, that I would never do it at home. Never, ever. I wouldn't do it. I don't want to go outside the shaman circle, in a way, how I feel about it now. Because,
but at the same time, you say you wouldn't want to do it with a group of 30 people either.
No, that's too much vulnerability for me to touch.
Yeah, I mean, my view of it is like, well, who's the shaman's shaman? You know, it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit bravado and a little bit ego, but there's also a sense of like, well, this is the way I've done it my whole life, and why would I suddenly change that now just because it's sort of conventional and usual to do it a different way. I mean, that's, if anything, that makes me want to do it a different way. Is like everyone else does it that way. I'm not going to do it that way.
Yeah, I'm very much the same. Like always gonna do stuff my own way. So and I feel that's, at least that is my experience with the more shamanic work, that it's an inherent understanding of an inner energetic language, basically, that you can utilize if you've had these experiences and you like, it comes easy to you or whatever. So I'm not much for like, oh, I'm going to go to this shaman and learn from him. I'm going to learn from all the people I can, that I kind of check them out. And when I trust them, when I respect them, a lot of work goes on, and that happens on Discord. So that's great. So I'm collecting everything shiny, anything that glows. So wisdom and knowledge, like, give me all your shinies, please. Yeah. It's basically my little sneaking around like a cat and collecting shinies. It's a way of viewing myself doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be open to working in a small group with an experienced curandero if that was an option for me, but it's just not. So yeah, I just do it alone. But I mean, I use the traditional music, and I do like make a container for it, and it'd be very interesting for me to try it in different ways, which I probably will going into the future. But I think if you're in need of healing and you feel called to it, but you don't have thousands of dollars, your options are pretty limited as to like just taking off on a plane to a retreat or whatever.
That is the main problem I feel as well with it. It's the economic parts, because often, I mean, I saw someone, they told me that they were charging like $2,000 for a retreat over like 3 days. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's a robbery. I would never pay that. I don't give a fuck how much healing. I don't give a fuck if I got to meet God. I ain't paying that shit, because that's bullshit.
That sounds like one of the cheaper ones.
Yeah. So my experience, I paid maybe $300 for this weekend.
Yeah, and so that was held in Sweden as well, right?
Yeah. And where are you located?
Melbourne.
I see. Okay. So the scene is not that big. Is that the issue why you can't find like a shaman and do like a smaller setting? Are they like so booked up, the ones that are touring or whatever?
The whole touring thing is a bit of a new concept to me. Like, I've heard of it being done before, but never in Australia. And whatever does go on is pretty like ultra low key. But I've been invited to ceremonies before, but I was in my early 20s and not ready for it at all, and not interested at that point. But I do know this is like quite a strong network of underground Australian shamans who are working with local acacia species that I find very interesting, but it's also very sort of, it's like grassroots, but it's also sort of brand new in a sense. Like, we've got none of the traditional information from the native people that were here before white people came. And so everything has to be invented from scratch, basically, and learned directly from the plants. Yeah. And to me, I find that quite appealing, to just go to the plants directly and ask them, how do I do this?
Yeah. Because do you know about, I think it's Rupert Sheldrake's idea of morphic resonance, the morphic field?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's where I feel that the ancestors of the land, I mean the native peoples, and their shamanistic and magical practices, which I'm personally feeling quite sure about that they were doing and have been doing. That is somehow possibly stored in the land, in the plants, if they use the plants, So it would be possible to get an information download, but maybe no signatures on it. It's from this X culture, from that, who gives a fuck, But give me the download. So I truly believe that. So maybe this network of underground shamans, they're tapping into that as well. I would think. So, but you're the first guy actually that I heard who took ayahuasca himself and had good experiences with it. So it's very interesting to me because it opens it up, Yeah. Only heard like the terrible fucking trips. So I was like, whoa, bro.
I was kind of like similar to you in the sense that when I showed up to ayahuasca, I'd already been through so much. It was just like, bring it on, you've got dark shit to show me. I've got dark shit from here to 10 years ago, and it's just life.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't really have dark trips with ayahuasca. It was more just like difficult. But it was not difficult to the point where I didn't have some sort of feeling guiding me through, some sort of reassurance that it was for something beneficial and healing. Whereas I've had other dark trips where it's just flat out darkness, and with like, I still don't know why it happened or what I actually went through. But I mean, for ayahuasca, no matter what the trip itself was like, I always felt wonderful afterwards every time. And just the music, I think.
I mean, if you're in a good place, I can see myself coming out of it like glowing, because I could feel that glowing even in that rawness, but it was just, I was fucked up all over, and then I blew a bit, I guess. And I don't know. But I feel you there.
Yeah, I would have like music playing, and I'd learn to sing along with the Icaros, and if I wasn't singing, I'd be just sitting there in a chair just meditating through it. And I would deliberately sort of structure the music in a way that sort of started out light and then went to like a pretty intense dark sort of section in the middle, and then come out the other side light again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure why I did it that way, but I just did, and it just felt like the thing to do, because that pulled through the most amount of sort of stuff, whatever it was. And it's quite hard to talk about, but there's that real sort of sense of difficulty in the middle of just like I don't particularly want to do this, but I feel driven to do it and called to do it, and like it's important for me to go through this, and so I would, and without fail I'd feel better on the other side of it.
Yeah, well, that's the reassurance that one needs then, I guess, to be able to do it like you do it, to have that like reassurance that, even if you ended up in some kind of void that you can't explain, you'd still feel better afterwards, which means some work was being done. So, but you're talking about the intuition here with the music and how to structure it, and it's also, I mean, effective in a specific way. And I do really feel that you are going to work with your shamanism with other people in the future. So it's a cool journey for us both. I mean, we're on a similar kind of path, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the very beginning, the absolute beginning.
Oh yeah, so,
so brand new to the whole thing, and it really is just, the whole DMT thing is just on a completely another level compared to every other psychedelic. I feel like it's just through the roof, and like just wow, it's super incredible, and it's so hard to describe.
Yeah, it really is. But I will say that when I smoked DMT crystal the first time ever, it like it fucking did something. It flipped a switch or something similar to that. I was like going in this kind of direction in my life, and it just like boom, like that. And was the experience I had. I would also like to like recommend a substance called or a blend rather, which is called changa. And changa is basically ayahuasca vine with DMT crystal mixed into a smokable blend, basically, which extends the effects as well as you can like smoke a joint with it. So you can take a few puffs and feel it out. You don't blast as hard necessarily as you do with crystal. That's how I've done it, at least. And I've done crystal, but the changa is like ayahuasca without the purge. It's of course when the vine is there present with the DMT. So I would recommend anyone looking into like trying DMT for the first time. Changa is so much easier because you can roll it into a joint because the crystal is hard to smoke. You need the right technique. So yeah, I would very much recommend that to anyone who's thinking about it already, like trying DMT.
Yeah, definitely. I think we were talking about it with Seva, and I was saying it's the male inhibitors act like sort of a cushion to sort of lessen because DMT is quite a huge impact, especially the pure stuff when it comes on all at once. It's quite strong, put it that way. And so it can be like, it can cushion the blow a bit and it sort of mellow it out, which is really useful. And I think like I tried DMT for years, like about 10 years, and it never did anything to me at all. And I kept I'd be hanging out with friends and I'd just give it back to them and say like, I'd be sitting there the whole time like, what's it supposed to be doing? And could never get a clear answer, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to waste your stuff. It's not having any effect on me, and I'd just give it back. But the thing that finally worked was changa.
Oh, and nice.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think, yeah, from my experiences with pure DMT, it's I'm just at the point where I'm so just terrified of it that I'd rather just do ayahuasca instead and forget about pure DMT altogether. I think I had it right to begin with, that ayahuasca was sort of there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it, and that chance to do some work and to get some sort of understanding from it, I think, is valuable.
Yeah, that's where most of the value is gained, like actual like shadow work and stuff like that. I mean, you can have profound like insight where you see over the edge to a certain point, over some kind of edge, and when you cannot unsee that, but that's mostly subconscious. I feel it's stored in the subconscious, so you're not like bringing it out as much and not consciously into your life like you do with the longer trips, like with ayahuasca. But speaking on the subject of DMT and longer trips, I know last time I checked Aubrey Marcus out, which you recommended a podcast to me earlier, with that they were talking about this new kind of research they were doing where they want to keep people in, with the DMT drip, like Rick Strassman did in the 90s or something.
No,
spirit molecule thing.
The whole extended DMT with intravenous administration sort of thing.
Yeah. So that's super interesting, and I'm like, the balls on the dudes doing that kind of shit. For me, it's like, it's a good work, guys, girls.
Yeah, it's incredible, but so scary to be one of those test pilots.
Yeah, for sure. I've been a test pilot enough in my life, and I still am, actually, but not to that level. I don't want to subject myself to because that's breaking like new ground, being able to stay in that state for so long and to like actually. So I don't know if they're going to be able to bring back a lot of information, but probably. So it's very much like unexplored territory, which I feel I'd rather see what happens to them first.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was that was the appeal of going to the Amazon for the McKenna brothers, was because they had DMT to begin with and they wanted to extend it out. But since then, most people agree that there is a big difference between pure DMT and ayahuasca. Experientially, they're quite different things, even though it's kind of the same. Which doesn't make a lot of sense, but I mean, because I'd had ayahuasca experience before doing pure DMT and having it actually work, I was able to have DMT and to recognize like, oh, it's just like a really, really intense, short ayahuasca trip.
Yeah, and the DMT is present in both, but the vine acts as its own kind of drug, and they call the Harmala vine telepathy back in the day when they discovered it. So that says a little bit about it. It's called the vine of the dead. Hello. Of course, it's having, for me at least, of course, it's having more of an effect than just a dampening or just a this or that. Is a crucial part of it. It is the vine of the dead. That's not the DMT containing plants,
right?
Chacruna or whatever. That's not the vine of the dead. That is the vine is ayahuasca, you know, in a way. That's how I feel. I'm not going to tell everybody else how it is, but that's how I feel about it. So, and then that would be the explanation why it's so different, and why for me the middle way, so to speak, is Changa.
Yeah. We might sort of start getting wrapped up and just take it back to the whole aging thing. I think I sort of answered that, but wanted to know how you feel about aging and what your perspective is on it.
Yeah. Well, I've been dealing with that, thinking about it, feeling it out. So I'm not afraid of death. And that's not an issue for me. That's more like a relief, actually. You know, so it's a good thing to look forward to.
Right.
But so my issues with aging are decay, fear of decay, which often hides as fear of death for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But fear of decay, fear of physical decay, because I'm very. So I've had really bad body dysmorphia my whole life, and like issues with my appearance and things like this. And I've gotten myself to a place where I'm okay with things right now. So I'm very attached to my own like perceived beauty, and with that comes youth, I feel. So I'm putting like a lot of pressure on myself there, like to. I don't want people to notice that I'm older, and like on good days, people are like, "Oh, we thought you were 25." Like when I tell them, I'm like, "Yeah, I want to hear that shit," you know. But so that's where my issues comes in. Like I'm not even worried really about the decay of the mind; it's already fucking decay. But yeah, it's about the body, because I hold so much of my self-worth and my own perceived value in my physicality, which is unhealthy, of course. But I mean, I'll take any kind of fucking health that's anything else than where I used to be. So it started out in rehab with going to the gym, getting some muscle, self-esteem, and that comes from that. And then you might be starting to put some value on your own name. And that's the foundation for me to truly push myself out of that dark place, was by using the physicality and overcoming the body dysmorphia, because that was the first thing I had to fix, because it was the biggest thing that was draining my energy. So that's my issue with aging. Otherwise, I feel similar to you. Like, I get older, I get wiser. Things seem to go pretty well. Energy flows are like aligning. Things are aligning. Things are happening. And if I just zoom out a little bit, I can see that this ship is still going strong, and it's gonna keep going strong, and I really have that like feeling in my heart, and like with me when I tap into my heart. But yeah, it's the whole dichotomy, love and then fear on the other side of it all.
Right. Yeah, I think I can relate to the whole body dysmorphia thing. Although I never really called it that, but just having a negative self-image, and like I think it goes with the territory with when you're in like severe depression and anxiety, especially like social anxiety. It's like
yeah. You can sense everyone's looking at you,
it's
and
just so self-judgmental and hyper sort of critical and irrational and just fear-based living. And so I can totally understand how you'd want to be sort of swinging on the other end of that, and then you'll probably come back and find a middle point and a balance at somewhere along the line. But
yeah, I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I think like health is beauty, and the healthier that you are, the more beautiful you tend to be. So it's less of an aging thing and more of just like, well, so long as you stay healthy, I think it's a really good motivation to do that.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it just feels better. It just feels better. So.
Exactly. So, and for me, as an old heroin addict, ex-heroin addict, I mean, for me, the endorphins I get from doing the weights, that's fucking dope for me, man. And it's like endogenous, so it's my own fucking dope, man. So that it came from an unhealthy place, you know, with the whole working out thing. Came from like hatred of my own image of myself, basically. But like you say, it's turning more and more into health. I got more and more into that. I got a bit out of that, but I'm still into it too much. But so, and I feel that with the shadow work I'm doing, I could do maybe double the work I'm doing right now without putting too much on myself, really. If I can lift these weights off of myself, I can fucking lift the whole world, I feel like, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really part of one of the key benefits of lifting is sort of voluntarily doing difficult things on a regular basis just as a way of life and choosing to do it. And that way, when you face difficult things in the rest of your life, you've practiced for it in that way.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. That's the whole thing about subjecting yourself to difficult experiences is like honing a samurai sword, folding it over and over again. So you're prepared for when the storm hits. You have a certain grounding in yourself.
Yeah. I've recently been playing around with lifting just every single day, first thing in the morning when I get up, and I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years, lifting weights and just using free weights and body weight at home. So like really simple, basic stuff that anyone could do. And it's helped heaps, but I would always use this method of like 2 or 3 days a week and then just do a few sets to the point that I felt comfortable with on those days. And all my other days would be days off, which was fine. But recently I've tried doing it just like every day, no days off, and I'm finding it so much better. It's almost easier because I don't have to think about it. I don't have to ever put it off. I don't have to think, I'll do it tomorrow. It's like, of course I'll do it tomorrow because I'm doing it today and I've done it yesterday, and there is no not doing it.
Yeah, I got a
and it's like,
and
if I only did 2 days a week, I might do like 2 sets a day, so 4 sets total. But doing it every day, if I just do 1 set every day, I've done 7 sets by the end of the week, and the total is much more than I would have otherwise done. And
and you're priming your mind as well.
The very start of every day is just like, I've finished working out and now I can start my day, and that's like the best feeling. It's so good. So how do you? What's your sort of structure like, and Has it sort of changed over time since you started doing it?
Yeah, I started out having access, like easy access, I would say, to like regular gyms.
Yeah.
So of course I could do more like detailed sculpting of my body.
Yeah.
Right now I'm in a situation where it's kind of a jungle gym situation, like for you yourself. I have some bars, I got a bench, I got weights like that. So free weights, body weights is what I'm doing, but I'm trying to go every day. I've had like this really crazy period for a couple of weeks, so I don't put too much weight on that. But I want to go every day, because when I do that and I'm starting to like come into day 3, I'm starting to feel it, and day 4, day 5, and I get this reward of like contentment and inner peace just walking to the gym, just on my way, because it's already done.
Yeah.
Because I'm so primed for it. And like you say, when you've done that, you don't have to be there for even 45 minutes. You can be in there for 30 minutes, and you can go at it hard, or you can do whatever you want to do that day, but at least give yourself a chance when in there, but go, I would say, because the whole reward, the actual reward, is in the routine itself, and in the stability that creates and how it makes us feel. That's the real reward, and the progress you can see in your own body, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
So I feel.
Yeah, I think it's it was all mental. My whole motivation for it was to try and heal depression, and it helped a bit. It didn't really work, but it helped a bit, and it helped enough to the point where I kept it in my life as just a part of it. And yeah, I feel like I can't really live without it now. It's just such an important sort of thing. It's like we're not designed to just sit on a chair all day long, like get out of bed and then sit on a chair. It's so stupid. But
yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
But it's normal these days, I feel. But yeah, you got to move your body somehow, because you got to take care of yourself and be healthy. And that's the whole thing about it. It's not about beauty. It's not about flexing. It's about how you feel about yourself. And I would say for all people, basically, going to the gym, doing whatever kind of work, but going to the gym will improve your life, I would say.
Yeah.
So
and for just half an hour a day.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
heaps.
Yeah, it is. And if you keep getting into a good routine with that, you keep stacking those wins in your own life, you're going to carry that shit across your heart, and you're going to be able to take on the world with a whole different energy. Because I get my panties in a bunch when I sit inside and I don't do anything. I get all stir crazy and frazzled up and fucked up. But if I go to the gym, I instantly feel better afterwards. And if I do it the next day, I'm going to feel even better, even better, even better. Eventually, I'll just have a good baseline of like, I feel fucking good, I feel like a machine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got there like a couple of weeks ago after I lifted like 9 days in a row, and I also walked like 4 days, but then had to have a break because my legs couldn't keep up. But I used to walk every day, and yeah, so that's something I want to get back into. But I just felt incredible. I just felt so good, just all day long, constantly, just like subtle bliss, just like
yeah.
Like life is good. And then had a massive weekend and just sort of got on the drinks and just completely wrecked it, man. Completely kicked myself out of ketosis and just fucked it all up, and then ended up on the phone with my mum saying, why do I do this? Is it for some kind of reward? Because I don't feel very rewarded right now. I feel like I've just been a complete idiot and done this stupid thing for no reason.
Again.
Yeah, again,
yeah. But it's good to hear that you can call your mom and be like open and honest about it, because I don't feel that way. I feel still way too much like I've caused her so much harm, so much suffering. Basically, it's how I feel. So I haven't really forgiven myself for that yet, and dealing with it but I don't feel like I can just call and tell her like, oh, I did all this ketamine and I took acid for 6 days and now I feel fucked up, because she's gonna go like, okay, that's like, she's gonna go into catastrophic thinking instantly,
Right.
because she is traumatized by these experiences are surrounding me. So it's good to hear. So,
Yeah, I think it's helped a lot to be able to just talk with family about pretty much anything and everything, because I don't know, it's just it's good to be open and honest, and that way I feel like there's more comfort in them, even if it's uncomfortable to hear what I'm going through. At least they know like where I'm at.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, but it becomes a different thing when there's some kind of PTSD involved. It might be complex PTSD, it might be PTSD. It doesn't matter, but if that is involved, then it's a whole different matter, because rationality is not gonna take any hold.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I want is to be a burden on anyone, especially family. Yeah, just because of your own stupidity.
Yeah. God damn it, man.
All right, cool. Well, we'll wrap this thing up, man. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and having a talk. It's been really cool. And yeah, if you have any final thoughts, or if you want to let people know where they can find you, yeah.
Boom, 2 hours exactly. Timed it. So you can find me on Discord, and I just want to say thank you to you for inviting me and giving me this chance. It's basically been therapy for me, so thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.